Today is Monday. Hello, Holistic Life RN. Hello, Katrina. Hello, you guys. Thanks so much for joining. I'm just going to wait a couple moments for people to pop in so that we can talk all about the conscious parent. Hello, Habiba. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thank you so much for joining. I am going to wait a second. Hi, Mule. Hi, Camille. Hi, Affiliate Straight. Thanks so much for joining and popping in. Today we're going to talk all about expectations and whether that's a good thing for our kids. Hello, hello. Tell me how to pronounce your name. I have Habiba. I want to make sure that I'm getting it right. Round, hello, and set up. Hello, guys. How are you? Habiba, awesome. Yay. Thank you so much. Hello, Donna's Angel Care. Thanks for joining. You guys, I'm so happy that you are here. So today we are talking all about expectations for our kids and whether that's a good thing, a bad thing, whether or not we should consider maybe the things that they have for themselves, like what they want to do for their lives and how our expectations play into it all. Thank you, Robert, for joining. Thanks so much for the hearts already, you guys. So before we get started, hello, you guys. For those that are new to me, hello, my name is Brooke-Sidney, and my site is called Bella and the Babe, and it's all about empowering authentic motherhood. And every Monday around this time, I have what I call the Conscious Parent Book Club Scope. I scope about this book, The Conscious Parent. It's by Dr. Shefali Tsabary, and you know, she is an Oprah Winfrey favorite. She talks a lot about just conscious parenting and what that really means. And so what I have done is I just decided to really start a conversation about this book, and I encourage people to get the book and try on the theories and see if they work for them, and then use what they want and discard the rest, right? Like, just use what we have and then get rid of what doesn't work for us. So far it's been a really good, I think, a really good conversation about this book. We started part 1 of chapter 13, which is formally titled Shelve Those Great Expectations, last week. So we're going to continue that conversation. So now would be a good time if there are some family members, some friends, some other mothers or parents that you'd love to invite. Go ahead and invite. Share here on Periscope, Twitter, as well as on Facebook. And if something I'm saying resonates with you, please do give hearts. I appreciate you guys are already giving hearts. That's so awesome. Please do give hearts. That way I know that what I'm saying resonates with you, and that you guys understand what we're talking about, and that it's at least interesting, right? Because I know that not everything always means the same thing for everyone, or we think about parenting the exact same way, but it's really great to have like a discussion about the ideas. So last week, I just want to review a little bit. Last week we had we talked about really kind of some of the dangers of having too many expectations on our kids. Dr. Shefali gives a really good example of when we're often asked, what do you want your child to be when you grow up? All of us, I think all of us that have kids, we've all been asked by that, right? We've all been asked that question. What do we want our children to be when they grow up? And oftentimes, the common answer is like a doctor, a lawyer, or in today's society, like a tech genius, an engineer, a computer person. But what Dr. Shefali says when she was asked this question about her daughter, she says, he or she, or in this case, her daughter already is. She says, I only want her to know her wholeness as it flows from her inner stillness. And once she knows this, she will own the world. Hello, BTST Child Sleep. Thanks so much for joining. So I just ask you guys, how many of us can truly answer that question that way? How many of us can really say, whatever our child wants to do when they grow up is okay with us, right? How many of us can say that, hi, can you guys hear me? I hope you guys can hear me. Can you guys hear me? If you can hear me, throw heart, say something. I want to make sure that you guys can hear me. I feel like my microphone might have been off. So okay, great. You can hear me. So, okay, great. So I was worried you guys couldn't hear me. Oh, perfect. Yay. I was so worried. I thought my microphone was off. So great. So yes, like a lot of us really worry that we may not be putting maybe what our child wants to do, or maybe even, as I talk about a lot, like our child's gifting from God, like what they were destined to do, what He made them to do, created them to do. And a lot of times we have in our minds what we want them to do. So I thought that question is just really, really on point as we think about the expectations that we have for our kids. And just another thing about the recap is last week we discussed what is our duty as a parent, and it really is to, of course, guide them and help them discover who they are, but it's also to mirror our child's already wholeness, out of which that they can then become the fuller and greater selves as they continue to grow and develop. And I think that's different from a lot of the ways that we think about parenting. I think a lot of us think, oh, our job is to, have them become, as I said earlier, a particular profession, a particular trade, to have them do something, finite, rather than nurturing who they already are on the inside and the gifting that they have and seeing that develop. So I think that that's really great. And so we talked last week about the importance of, one, honoring who your child is, making sure that we actually know what they're good at, and then honoring that and having them see themselves from a place of wholeness instead of lack. I know as a parent, we live in the world that often focuses on what we don't have, right? Like, even with Christmas, it was like, we could have gotten 20 million gifts, and then there are people that are gonna be like, but we didn't get that one gift, right? We could have all these great things, but we might inadvertently focus on the things that we don't have. And that's kind of how it is a lot of times with kids. And as they're growing up and then they're in school, like they go to school and they may get really good grades, but sometimes we focus on the one grade that isn't as good, right? That isn't the A or the B, right? And rather than putting the attention on strengthening where they got really good grades and perhaps where they're gifted. So it's really, really important that when we think about all of these things, thanks so much for the hearts, that we really honor who our child is. And the other thing is that we talked about how to really set a bar for our child. And we all want our children to, do good things, right? We all want our children to, have growth and to have a bar set that encourages them, right? That's what we think, to grow. But sometimes our expectations may be too high, and that may actually end up having them feel bad about themselves, right? It may internalize the fact that, again, they're missing something or they're lacking something, and our child can actually feel dwarfed. And one of the things that I talked about last week that I really want to share again, especially because we have new people on here this week, is that I think it's really interesting when we think about limits and expectations, that sometimes as parents, we can in fact limit our children by having expectations. And the best example I can share is a lot of the things that we want our children to do, inadvertently, are things maybe that we wanted to do. So sometimes we place our own wants, desires, needs, what success looks like, those pictures onto our children. And then oftentimes, right, we are putting our expectations based on the information that we have at hand. Thanks so much for the heart, guys. And feel free to pop in. You guys don't have to hold comments or questions to the end. Just feel free to jump in. But oftentimes, we are giving expectations off of what we know. And as human beings, we're limited, right? We don't have this big macro vision like, say, God has, right? But if you guys know, and this is really awesome, I think, about the fact that sometimes we can actually limit them with our vision because our vision is limited. For example, the jobs and positions that exist today. Like 10 years ago, who would have thought that there would be social media managers? Who would have thought that we would be live streaming through our phones, right? And that there are jobs created from this. There are industries being created from all of these new things that only God could have known was going to happen, right? And so that's the same for our children. You know, maybe, I know it's great, we want them to maybe be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, but there could be things that are so much greater and better, and also things designed specifically for them, or things that God has specifically planned for their life. And so just think about it a different way. Like, perhaps we could be, in fact, limiting them because we don't know what's around the corner. And that can be a good thing. And the third thing we talked about last week is the 3 things that we can kind of realistically expect of our children. And that's, 1, that they respect themselves, that they respect others, and that they really have a respect for their safety. But kind of beyond those things, it's really a lot on what are they going to become, who are they becoming, what did they come here with, and giving them the right to actually have the space to develop and do that. And I think it can be a little freeing too for us as parents, because we're human first and then we're a parent. And so we're also on a spiritual quest to learn, to grow, to develop, to do what we came here to do, and so are our children. And so it's great if we can, I think, withhold some of these bars and expectations and really do more with encouraging, nurturing, growing, and developing them. So the things we're going to talk about today is we're really going to talk about 4 quick points. And the first one is to focus on the process and not the outcome. So as you all know, we live in a very outcome, external, outward appearance society, right? Like, everything is about, you know, what we're able to manifest, what we have, maybe, you know, everything from our car to our house to our job. And for kids, it's oftentimes their school, how well they do, and performance, kind of things like that. But oftentimes when we shift our perspective always to the outcome, then we are denying them the process of enjoying, like, the whole process to get from point A to point B. Because the majority of life is the process. The majority of life is the going from point A to point B, and not just the outcome, right? So here, it's really good for us to focus on the process and not on the outcome, because when we focus on the outcome so much, BTSD says the journey is so important. Exactly, it is so important, because when we focus on the outcome, then we only really have like 2 responses, whether they did well or they didn't do well. But when we focus on the process, it's rich with things that we could learn and teach and help them develop, how they operated during the outcome, you know, how they approach things, what they learned about it, how they handle things. It is ripe with character development. It's ripe with helping them enjoy the learning process. There's just so much more to life than the outcome. And just like BTST Sleep just said, we should really focus on the journey. I love that. And it's important to also remember that we communicate our expectations and our focus, not just in the things that we say, right? We've talked about this earlier before, but our body language, our voice, our tone, those things also convey what we really think about things. So just be mindful as we talk with our children, and when they have situations that come up that deal with these things, that we want to just take into account our fullness of who we are and how we communicate, so that we can make sure that they're getting the message that would most help them. And I think Dr. Shefali has a really good example. She was talking about her own father, and her own father would say, like, the A's are fine when you come on with great grades, but what's most important is that how you feel about what you learned. So she said that although she was disappointed initially when she got all these great grades, that her dad wasn't more like hyped up about it, but she learned that by focusing on how much did she feel that she learned, she started setting her own internal standards for herself and her own expectations. And she then learned to surpass her own expectations and not have like her parents' expectations on us, which so many of us have, myself included. I had those for a large part of my life. It was my dad's expectations of me or what have you. And it's really, really great when we can create our own expectations and know that we'll be supported in our growth and development. So I guess this is the fifth overall point, but our second point today is to use the right kind of praise. And so again, we want to focus on praising kind of their character, their development, what they did during the process, and not necessarily their outcome. We want to focus on the qualities that were allowed to emerge during the journey, as BTSD Sleep had said, as a result of the process. We want to say things to them like, look at how much you learned about yourself, or did you see how brave you were when you put yourself out there, or wow, you were very forgiving when, another child took, your toy, whatever it is. It really, really helps to give that type of praise, because that really builds them up and has them looking at their own experiences and not just the outcome of something. It also, and this is a point that I want to add, it also helps to give them language to actually understand their experience. It helps them to develop the emotional intelligence that we know our children need as they're growing up. Thanks so much for the hearts. So, this approach can really help, I think, shape a whole adult, a whole person, and a child, and then soon thereafter, an adult that's not afraid of an outcome that didn't necessarily go their way, because they're able to find value in their experience. She has some great examples of some of the language and ways that we can talk to our children. I think it's on page 179. Things like, you inspire me. I'm amazed by your spirit. I'm blessed. You're blessed with so many talents, or I'm blessed to have you for a son or daughter. Those type of praise are really about being intrinsic to them too, and not about an outcome or being a part of the experience and the process. It's really having richer and more developmentally oriented praise, rather than just praise. Good job. And sadly, only praising when they actually do meet some expectation that we want them to have. The next point is to realize, and I know you guys already know this. Hello, Keshi. Thanks so much for joining. The next point is really to realize that our children imitate us, right? So in as much as we want to say we want to focus on the process and not the outcome, if they see us, hello, Kechi, if they see us focusing only on the outcomes, it's going to be hard for them not to do so. Oh, Kechi, you're perfect on time. It's so great to have you here. So yeah, it's really, really important to remember that our children mimic us. They imitate us. We are their models. And so in as much as we want to focus just on, giving the right kind of praise and having a viewpoint that looks at the journey and the process rather than the outcome, we also have to embody that teaching. We have to live that teaching, because they're going to see what we do, and they're ultimately going to model what we do and not just what we say. So, I think that also goes in line with the thinking, again, how important it is for us to be present as much as we can with our kids. And that's hard in this world of distractions. But our presence really is our most potent parenting tool. When our kids know that we are tuned into them, they're more apt to pay attention and connect with us. Kechi says, action speaks louder than words. Exactly, that's so true. And they are watching us. They're really, really watching us. And the final point is that we want to value our needs as well. A lot of times as parents, we may feel guilty if we put our needs on par with our children. I talk about this a lot. For those of you that have been following me, I talk about this a lot, especially as it pertains to self-care and mamas. A lot of times parents and mothers, we feel guilty. Hello, Diggy. Thanks for joining. We feel guilty when we put our needs on par with our children. Ketchy says we want to value our needs. Exactly. If our children constantly see us sidestepping ourselves, sacrificing our own needs for others or for our spouse, hello Diggy, or our friends, they will learn to devalue themselves in favor of others, right? They're going to see what we are teaching them. Not to mention, as you know, I talk about a lot, the impact of not taking time out for ourselves, but the model, what we're teaching them, what we're showing them. We're showing them that it's okay to value other people and other needs over their own. And that's not what we want to teach, and that's not what we want even for ourselves, right guys? Like, that's not what we want. So, you know, we really do our kids a spiritual service when we help them develop our ability to fulfill ourselves and to take care of ourselves and to take care of our own emotions. We need our me time. Exactly. That's so true. That's so true, Catchy. And, you know, that's also like we need to teach our children to be unafraid of owning their own voice, their own space, and their own needs in a respectful way, right? In a respectful way. We want them to be able to speak up and talk to us and have a voice and be able to articulate their needs, but do it in a respectful way. But we want them to know how to do that. That's a very important skill that they're going to need, whether they have, whether they're going to use that in school, in relationships that they have, both, you know, personal relationships and work relationships, you know, and in the workplace. They're going to need to know how to stand up for themselves, how to have their voice, how to claim their space, how to create boundaries. And so if they see us not valuing our own needs, it's going to be really hard for them to learn that. It's going to be really, really hard for them to learn that because they're going to see something so contrary to what we're talking about. Children learn our good and bad habits, eating right, exercising, being respectful to others, etc. That's so right, BTSD. That's so right. That's exactly right. They model what we do and not what we say. So the other thing is that, you know, we just want to encourage our children to be givers. Be givers, like to learn how to give to other people. And true giving means giving from a place of wholeness, right? Wholeness and not lack. That means that you are giving because you feel great and you can give kind of from your overflow versus giving when the inner well is dry. And so often as mothers, we give so much that, and we don't refuel and replenish ourselves, that in essence, our well runs dry. So we're not really giving from a true place of giving if we've depleted. Cassie says giving is important. It's so important. And so it's just having us think broader. I'm just really encouraging, especially mothers, but I love that there are also, you know, men and fathers on the scope. It really encouraging us to think about valuing our needs and why that's not selfish and why it's not like, I think so much of society, especially for mothers, has been about sacrificial giving and sacrificial doing and not taking care of ourselves. There's even this thing going around right now, even on Facebook and different memes about, you know, Jada Pinkett Smith is even talking to her daughter and her mother about what it means to be a mother and a wife and a woman today and the value of self-care. So the conversation, I love it. The conversation is bubbling up. It's very much something that I think is very important that we're talking about. But I want to just stress that it has far-reaching implications. It's not just about us, even though it is, and that's super, super important, but it's also about what we are teaching our girl children as well as our male children about valuing themselves and their needs and having a good voice and having space and great boundaries that they're going to then take with them throughout life, right? And so I just want us to think about those things as we do our day-to-day. Valuing our needs is very, very important. Yes, it is. It's so, so important. So I have really enjoyed this chapter, you guys. I've really enjoyed chapter 13, and her formal title is Shelve Those Great Expectations. But when I talk about this chapter, I talk more about the value of rethinking our expectations. I love that video. She did get people thinking. Exactly, BTSD. I agree. You know, people can argue about, you know, the type of person that she is, or about, you know, who she's giving credit to and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it is having the conversation and putting it out there about the need for women to take control of their happiness, to learn the importance of, as Keshi I think just says, finding balance and seeing ourselves as so important to the entire family, and to our own dreams, so that we nourish all of it, right? All the pieces are necessary. So, and what's really, really key is to read the comments in that post. Ketchy says, I love my Mama Love Planner. Thank you. Oh, Ketchy, you're so sweet. Diggy says, without me time, you only become depleted, and without being replenished, you can't effectively pour. Exactly, Diggy. I use that same analogy about the well running dry. You cannot pour into others. You cannot, I would argue, be a good spouse, friend, mother when you have nothing left to give, when you've given yourself out, right? You are dry. And then as Ketchy just said, you guys, I'm so happy that she got her Mama Love Planner. I finally, you know, we have some left. I have the Mama Love Planner, which is all about, for those of you that know, self-care. It encourages self-care for mothers. It is a practical tool to help mothers plan out self-care, because if we don't plan it, it does not happen. It's also a gratitude journal, because part of the ways to having a fuller and rich life is being grateful for the one that you have. And so it actually encourages you on a daily basis to give thanks and gratitude for at least three things in your life. And there's also room in the Mama Love Planner for daily declarations, so that you can use words, like it could be a scripture verse, it could be a quote, an affirmation, whatever moves you to uplift and encourage you as mothers, because that is so, so important. And of course, it has full-on goal setting and planning things, and I'm so happy that Ketchy has them, and they are still on sale. So I'll put this up. You feel free to go to for your Mama Love Planner, go to bellaandthebabe.com/BB store. That's Bella and the Babe store, and they're still on sale. I'd love for you guys to still get one and tell me how it's working for you. But it has been incredibly helpful for me in getting the self-care that I need. So I really encourage, and we have a daily edition, which I think Ketchy has, and we also have a weekly edition. So depending upon whether you prefer to think about your week daily, or think about your, you know, however you like to plan, daily or weekly. Like some people have to see their week at a glance, and then I'm more of a daily person. I need a lot of room for the day. So there's both for all types of mamas. So that's it, you guys. And next week we will be talking about chapter 14. Ketchy says daily edition. Yes, daily edition. Yes. And it's full color, you guys. It's full color. It's got monthly planning. It's got all sorts of fun sheets in there. Mama dreams, all sorts of things to get us ready for 2016. But yes, next week we'll be back. Thanks, Habiba. Next week we'll be back, and we'll be talking about chapter 14. And I'll probably be on this week. I did actually, you guys, I did my own self-care, and I wasn't on a lot last week. I was only on, I think, really once because of the Christmas holiday. I spent time with my family and just getting ready and not letting myself get too stressed out. Greet the kitties. Yeah. So I hope you guys had a great holiday too. Ketchy says, me too. Yes, yes. You know, we have to take some time. But now I am in full kind of go and trying to really be reflective and purposeful about heading into 2016. So I'm really looking forward to talking with you guys again next week, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks so much for popping on. Thanks so much for the hearts, and I really enjoyed it. Thanks. Bye.